Hey everybody, welcome to HyperDoc Hangouts on Air. I'm Kelly Hilton and I'm here with Lisa Highfield.
Hi guys.
And we're really excited this week to meet an incredible educator, Miss Mama Wolf, if you've seen her blog. Her real name is Jennifer Wolf. She's been in the classroom for over 27 years. She has an incredible array of expertise to share with us. She's a blogger, she's a writer, passionate educator, and we're really happy to have her today. Thanks for joining.
Well, we're glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Miss Wolf is here with her student, Marilyn. And do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what grade you're in and when you had Miss Wolf as a teacher?
Sure. So my name is Marilyn Yui, and I am currently a ninth grader, and I go to Emerson Junior High. And last year, I had the pleasure of having Miss Wolf as my English American Studies teacher. And it was just a lot of fun, and I miss her class a lot.
Oh, that's so great. I'm sorry I said your name incorrectly. Thank you for fixing that for us. So we want to chat with both of you today, first of all, just about what made Miss Wolf's class so incredible. I know that you are in other great teachers' classes, but what do you think it was that made it special and different last year when you were with Miss Wolf?
Well, to start off, Miss Wolf just has like a presence when you're in the room that makes everyone feel welcome. And it really helped me because it helps when teachers feel, when I feel that teachers want to get to know students. And Miss Wolf is just one of those people that has to get to know everybody and know everything about everyone. And it's nice to get that student-teacher relationship. And she just made it like there was a positive environment in the room whenever we would walk in, no matter whether my day was like crummy or whatever. Whenever I came into Miss Wolf's room, I knew that she would cheer me up for the rest of my day.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Right? That those are the things that students remember. Such a great reminder.
Mm-hmm. An afternoon English class, right? Everyone's a little bit sleepy and you want to kind of liven it up a little bit. So that's fun.
So it takes the extra effort to really get to know students to keep the high energy in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, it takes, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just part of the job. You want to find out what's going on with them so that you can connect and do a good job with your lessons and make it a fun environment for everybody.
What are some ways that you connect with your students, Jen, when you are thinking about planning for that last period of the day?
Well, I always try and mix it up so that we're not stuck doing one thing for more than 10 or 15 minutes. Have a lot of things to move around, to be able to get up and talk and collaborate. So I'm always kind of thinking about how I can chunk out the lesson that way. And also, what are they interested in, or what kind of a group are they? Are they a really verbal group? Are they a group who likes to act? Are they a group who I have to really work on getting those skills to come out? It's different every year. You teach who's in front of you, but it's really important to get to know what they like and dislike and kind of get them to trust you.
For sure. Do you have any traditions that you do that you just have to stick with every single year? Are there certain things that you have to bring back because it's so fun to do with the kids?
Do I have traditions? I like to sing.
Oh, fun. We didn't know that.
I sing and kind of get silly a little bit sometimes. Yeah. I don't know, if there's, I think just it's a tradition. I like to stand at the door and say hi and talk to people as they come in and out and find out how their day's going. I think my tradition is just really trying to make eye contact with every kid in every period somehow and let them know that I'm paying attention to them. So sometimes it's showing me cat photos and sometimes it's telling me about what happened in the period before or what they have for lunch. What do you think?
I don't know. I like when she stands outside the door and says hello to everyone. It's super welcoming, especially since I don't get to have her this year. And on my way to my 7th period English class, sometimes I see her stand outside the door and we'll give each other a high five.
Yeah. Sometimes we have secret passwords to get in the door, which don't tell anybody. There isn't really a password. They just have to say something positive until I let them in. So, whatever I'm in the mood for.
I'm going to hop in here. Jen, I've been reading what you've been blogging about all weekend about the intruder drills and It's been really moving, and to hear your perspective on it. And I've also been listening to a lot of teachers discuss about really simple things that we can start doing in our classrooms today. And I think you're already talking about it, making everyone feel welcome and a part of it and a part of a community. Maybe you're, Marlon, you can speak to that as well. How you're, feel a part of things at your school.
Well, our school, I feel super safe, which is reassuring when I come to school every day. And the teachers and the staff here do a good job making me feel safe. So I haven't really had to worry about that as much. But now with all the things that have been on the news, it is a little scary coming to school sometimes because there are students that could possibly do that. And I really wouldn't want that to happen at such a nice school.
Of course. So I'm sure that's kind of changed the tone a little bit in your classroom as well, Jen. And I know that you blog about it. Do you address those issues with your students as well and kind of give them a space to verbalize and communicate against that? Or
that's really hard to do because I think kids and adults, we can get, I don't want to say paranoid, but we can think about it so much that it becomes sort of a dominating force in our day. And I don't want to stand up and deliver a lecture about this or anything like that, but I do want to be able to read a kid and see if I can tell if there's something that's bothering them and kind of connect more one-on-one, or maybe a friend is telling me that their friend is having a bad day. When we had our wildfires here in Napa, it was pretty close to Davis, and there was a lot of smoke, and there was a lot of people in Santa Rosa and the area who were connected with Davis. And I really was surprised at how many kids were scared that the fire was going to come here. And I watched kind of that elevate as the days went on, and trying to address those fears as they come, that yes, that's a scary thing, but here we're safe, and here's what we will do, or here's what will happen. But no, I haven't had like a teachable moment with it yet. And I think our school district kind of discourages us from doing that. But again, building the relationships with kids and getting to know them and find out what's going on in their home life and what's the temperature. I do a thing with my AVID classes. I call it morning check-in. And it's just a Google form. And on the form, I have a couple questions like, how'd you sleep last night? And I have them rate it from 1 to 4. Did you eat breakfast? What's the temperature of your home and home life? What's the temperature of your school or social life? And is there anything else you want to tell me? So it's just 4 questions, but that all goes into, a spreadsheet. And then while they're working during the class period, I check that. And it's really interesting how many kids will tell me things that are both just kind of silly, like I ripped my pants today and I'm kind of embarrassed, or I'm worried about my parents, we're having money issues, or other really revealing things. And there's something about that. It always happens in the other question, like anything else you want me to know. And it has really tremendously helped me get to know a lot of my students that way, because it doesn't take a conversation in class. But when I see that, then we can talk about it outside, or I can refer it to a counselor. And I think those are just little things that teachers can do that will really help us build that safe community.
That is such an incredible idea of an implementation of technology.
Yeah.
About it, it doesn't need to be, an open discussion per se, because that's always a challenging thing for hearing everyone's voice.
Right.
Google Form really ensures that everyone's voice is heard.
Oh yeah, and it's usually the quietest, most introverted kids who tell me really, really big deal things. And I tell them, this is just for me to see, but if it's something that I need to get help with to help you, I will do that. So last week, a girl had shared something with me that I thought was important enough to talk to a counselor about. And she came to me afterwards, the girl, and she said, are you the person that said this about me? And I said, yeah. She goes, thank you. I'm okay, but I appreciate that you had her check in on me.
Wow.
And, I think that goes a long way when kids know that you're paying attention.
The number one thing. And it's just about asking that question. Like you said, 4 questions, routines, they can expect it. Maybe they don't share on the first time you send them the form and give them an opportunity that on the 5th or the 6th or the 7th time, they're going to feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Really paying attention here.
That's exactly how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's nice when they say nice things too, like, I love HyperDocs.
Well, let's talk about that then. Nice segue. So you have some reactions in that way. I know you've been teaching with them for a little while. Do you want to share with us kind of how it started and how things have been going?
Sure. Well, I have been teaching for a very long time. And in 2011, I got a Fulbright program it's through Teachers for Global Classrooms. It's through the U.S. Department of Ed. And it was the first time that I was an online learner because, of course, when I went to college, I didn't have the internet. So I am totally self-taught on how to use technology in the classroom and in my own life. And I had also started a blog at the same time on my website. And it was sort of an opportunity for me to be the learner and take that seat and really look at how is technology useful and what are the challenges. And I found it super hard to be a digital learner. I'll be honest. I didn't know how to do it. I was used to pencil and paper and writing and highlighting and marking. So that process of taking that program really, really made a big impact on me. And I started taking more chances in the classroom as a result of that. So getting Chromebooks. I wrote a grant after that, and I got 3 Chromebooks from the grant because I asked our librarian, I said, what is like the technology we're going to be buying for our classes? And she said, oh, these things called Chromebooks. Mm-hmm. So I bought them. And of course, we didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have anything, but we were able to, I used them kind of like stations. And when I saw how kids responded to it and I saw how easy it was to cut away all of the like basic level knowledge things and be able to use technology to really access creative thinking and give kids choice and to find the answers that they needed to find to get where I really wanted them to go. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I just started I'm kind of a little obsessive about things. And so I started obsessing about learning and being curious about how to do more and more with my kids. And then I was at this CUE conference and this Lisa, it was really hot. And I stumbled into a big auditorium and there was this amazing speaker that was talking. And I just felt like, Lisa, when I saw you speak that first time, I just thought this is exactly what I've been looking for. Because I teach 4 different preps and I run 3 different programs and I'm in secondary. So I have lots of contact with different kids and parents and I have all this different curriculum I'm trying to keep track of. And so as I was using the technology, I was also driving myself crazy because I couldn't keep track of anything. Like I couldn't put it all in one place. I didn't know what to do. So I had a Google Doc or I had a video link. And then when I saw you talking about HyperDocs, it made sense to me on that organizational level, but just also on the, just like the big picture, you know, how you talked about getting kids excited about learning. And that I just went home and I started going HyperDoc crazy. And that was the year before you, Marlon. So I was making these really horrible looking things, but the kids were just responding with such enthusiasm that I knew there was something there. Mm-hmm. And so it was part survival, trying to get myself organized, but mostly just a real desire to figure out how to make my classroom come out of the No Child Left Behind trauma that we were all experiencing, you know, and
yes.
Yeah.
And I started teaching in 91 and my first school was a technology school, believe it or not, and it was all wired. And I didn't know exactly what that meant. But the funny thing was I started creating like these digital lockers and folders and things with that technology. And it was whole language and we were doing all these wonderful things. And then No Child Left Behind came in and everything just shifted. And now I feel like we're moving away into such creative opportunities that HyperDocs it fits me perfectly.
Great. I think it's something a lot of teachers experience through HyperDocs is the experience of learning the digital tools and then having it all over in your digital world, like
Right.
out in different places and wanting to create these great experiences, but it was segmented and disjointed. Yeah. And so the idea, and it's such a simple idea of connecting all the learning together in one place and how that can support learners for organization and the teacher for organization and for feedback and for, grading and all the realities of a normal teaching position. It's been great to see that have an impact. So
right.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like as a student, Marlon, about when you were receiving lessons in this way. Was there a little learning period on how to learn in this way, or did it feel natural to you? What was that like?
I love HyperDocs. I'm just going to say that really quickly. I think that's brilliant. Whoever came up with that.
These girls.
No, you did. Okay. You guys are the best because it's just a really organized way to get a bunch of information. And I'm a super organized person. So for teachers to have things here and not know where they are at times really frustrates me. And I remember I walked in and Miss Wolf was like, okay, guys, so we're going to do this thing called HyperDocs. And I didn't know what they were. So I was like, fine, I'll give it a try. And I remember the first time I turned in my HyperDoc, I'm like, wow, I really want to do that over and over again. And we did. And it's a way for you to like be able to work by yourself when you need it and not have teachers give long lectures, which is nice, short instruction. Mm-hmm. And then if you have questions, you can get one-on-one attention with your teacher when you have questions. So it's really great. I love it.
And Marlon is, she's been awesome, as many kids have been, about giving me feedback when I create a HyperDoc about what works and what doesn't, because, every time I do something, I feel like it's different and I don't know if it's too much or too little. And there were times when you were frustrated about how fast I was asking, the pacing. And so, but it was in a collaborative way. So we were able to talk about it, and I could see what she was talking about and look at things from her view as a learner. And that did help me improve them for the next time I use it. And that's the other beauty about HyperDocs is I think that they're not static. They keep changing, and they change so quickly or I'm getting better at it, that I will change something when a kid is confused, or I'm watching how they're looking at how I'm asking to access the information. I can say, oh, of course you don't understand it because I need to put an arrow right here, or I need to do something. Yeah. And then the next day I'll project it and they go, wait, why does yours look different than mine? I'll say, oh, yeah, because I made it better already.
You revised it. Yeah.
It's that live lesson. I love that part to it. I always call them dead worksheets. Once you print it, you can't add or adapt it to the people who are in front of you. Exactly. So I know you study your kids while they're working.
Yeah, right. That's a big theme. I mean, we started talking about just getting to know your kids, but then HyperDocs are allowing you to study your kids even more closely.
Oh, absolutely.
Connections, like creating the lessons or changing out the links or the memes or the images that are relevant to the kids for that year. 5 years from now, our students sitting in our classrooms are going to have different things that they will find funny, or there's going to be different trends. And it'll be so easy to go back to your same old lessons and change it out.
Right. And I think, going back to the relationship building part, and as Marlon said, I'm not a textbook teacher. I've never been comfortable with a bunch of people staring at me and giving direct instruction. And in middle school, I like to switch it up. I don't like to be doing that. And there's times for direct conversation, but most of the time I want the kids to be have some direction and then be able to explore on their own. So I just love that I can feel comfortable in the thought that I've put in a HyperDoc, a project, and then be able to spend my class period actually participating in their learning. So I am talking to them and I am moving around and helping kids who are at different paces and figuring out who's struggling and why are you struggling, and seeing where the discussions are going that aren't, oftentimes I never would have had an idea to go in that direction, but the kids took it there. Mm-hmm. For example, had a funny incident happen last week when with a HyperDoc, I've been taking our new textbook adoption. We have a series, and I'm not super into textbooks, so I decided I would create HyperDocs for all the different units. It's taking me forever. That was a way bigger task than I thought that I would be able to do, but it's been fun. And the kids are working on a theme of approaching adulthood right now. And they were reading some poetry, and we had talked about making inferences, and we had done some work within the HyperDoc. But because of this ability for them to collaborate and the ability for everybody to be working at different things, it was getting kind of noisy. And I was walking around, it was Friday, it was a 3-day weekend, and I just thought, oh, I better see what's going on in this group. These 3 boys were having a huge argument, mm-hmm. 3 8th grade boys. Mm-hmm. Their argument was about the poem called Hanging Fire by Audre Lorde. And they were discussing how do we, one of the essential questions was, how do we identify the speaker of the poem? And they were determined that either the speaker was, some of them thought the speaker was a woman, and some of them thought the speaker was a man. And they were giving all these arguments about why it should be. They were arguing so intelligently and deliberately that they didn't even notice that I was standing there. And I didn't even want to interrupt them because they were just on their flow. And I walked away thinking, okay, this does not happen with a worksheet, right? This, you know, they were going back, and I had put in a link to a bio about her something, and they were clicking back and going, look at her, she's a woman. There must be a woman. And it really was making their learning come alive in a way that I hadn't anticipated, but got me super excited.
And they were just so passionate about the topic.
Yeah.
Access right away.
Yeah, 3 8th grade boys.
That's awesome.
Arguing about poetry. It was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
Those moments. We have a question in the people watching live. Ms. Prop has a question. How often do you use HyperDocs? Is it something you do every day, or what is it like for you?
It's most of the time now. This year I've made a big effort to go as much one-to-one as I can and go paperless. So I have to say that there have been a lot of HyperDocs this year, and like I said, in my English classes, we started a new curriculum, so that's been a good opportunity. I tend to have a combination during the period. So at the beginning of the period, we always start with relax and read. So we read for 10 or 15 minutes. And then after reading, we do some kind of mini lesson. And that could be centered around a HyperDoc. It could be something that is a concept that they are working on in a HyperDoc that I'm taking and doing more direct instruction. And then we have our must-dos and our should-dos. So I like it when there's a HyperDoc in the background that kind of can guide their instruction, but I don't, it's not 100% all of their curriculum. Right. In AVID, if anyone's familiar with the AVID program, it is chock full of all kinds of lessons and materials. And I've been slowly taking those and turning the projects into HyperDocs. And that has been really, really fun. In fact, I just made one. I've linked up some of them on my blog at jenniferwolf.net, but we're doing a persuasive writing unit in AVID. And in the past, we have done that with just a traditional kind of writing model. But this year I used a game board approach, and I talked about different ways to persuade. And then their practice was a Flipgrid that they had to do to persuade me about using 10 minutes of video game time. And then today they started their infomercials, and their outline is due on a slide deck, but I was using card game mock-ups. Have you heard of that before? So they got a problem, they got an audience, and then kind of a wild card thing that they had to throw in there. And they're going to create these infomercials, and they're going to have an opportunity to film them in whatever kind of medium they want. And that's the other thing that's been kind of neat about HyperDocs is if I try something new, a new kind of app with each one, then they end up, by this point of the year, they've got quite a few things to choose from, tools that they know how to use and what works and what doesn't work for them.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Especially these to get our kids to move from just being a consumer on technology to being a creator. And
Exactly.
a voice and putting it out there in their opinion. That's so great.
Yeah.
Another question?
I think we're answering it online. So
Okay.
if you're listening, keep putting them in and reading and typing away. So.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things I challenged myself with also over the last couple of years is working with our reluctant readers and trying to come up with a way that I can build their confidence and capture their interest and not be just a workbook kind of class to help remedy some of their reading struggles. And so my next challenge is working more HyperDocs into that program. And we're doing Julius Caesar monologues right now, and that has been. I made a very, very tiny HyperDoc with a Flipgrid so that they could write monologues and then record themselves, and those are hilarious.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing about having HyperDocs is the community of people that I've been able to meet. I mean, you ladies are awesome, and all the other creators and teachers who are out there who are trying things and putting things together in different ways. I just love it. So
to look at someone else tweet out a HyperDoc and look at their thinking, and you can see their lesson design.
Exactly. And I think one thing that Lisa has really taught me is that idea about the importance of planning and pedagogy with HyperDocs, and really it's not just a document with links, but it's really a whole thought process that I go through as the educator. I'm starting my HyperDocs months before I'm going to use them. And Marlon will walk in, are you making another HyperDoc? And I'm doing that because I'm starting to think, and I've always been a planner and been organized, but this has really forced me to think about those stuff, those processes. How are they going to explore the topic? How am I going to engage them? How are they going to apply this learning? How are we going to share it? In classes of 36, it's not always expedient to share things the old-fashioned way. So kid said to me today on my Flipgrid, my gosh, Miss Wolf, you've got like 1,000 hours of people watching those Flipgrids. I just went, wow, that's just in 1 year, right? Yeah. So, but forcing myself to think about that and what is the assessment going to look like? And how am I going to make it better? And how are the kids going to reflect on it? That for me has been, besides the initial excitement about, woohoo, I can keep it all in one place. Right. Now it's really grown into this, how I'm developing curriculum. And that to me is really, really exciting. And the creative part that it feeds when I'm making a HyperDoc.
Touching on all of it.
You really are. You're just reminding me of conversations that the three of us had when we first started writing the book and putting everything together. And one of the conversations was around just the title and everything. And the thing that kept coming out for all three of us is exactly what you're describing. That the creativity of the teacher that comes out and the heart of teaching, because we think about our kids so much and we want to plan these incredible experiences for them. So sitting down to plan a HyperDoc is like, making somebody a nice hot meal and like really watching them experience it and have a taste and that feels really good because you work really hard to create that experience for them.
Yeah. For years I was the yearbook advisor here, and I had to learn how to use all the website publishing, but I also had to learn how to use InDesign. And that was a real learning curve for me to be able to do that. Whoops, will you go turn the lights back on? We've got those motion sensor lights. We've been sitting too long. But what's happened with HyperDocs is I've fallen back into like all that exciting design stuff. And when I watch you guys do presentations and I see you doing the creative part, I'm watching it and kind of geeking out because I love thinking about, well, what's going to look good and what's going to be visually appealing and how am I going to make this user friendly? And I spent a lot of time doing that on the yearbook, and that was static. But with this, it's like, it's so exciting to be able to do that and looking at everything from color to shape to layout to design. It's really, really fun.
Well, to see the effects that has on learning. We say it's not about the pretty page, but boy, if I ask my son, who's a senior right now in high school, Mom, which one would you rather do? 10 times out of 10, he's going for the one that has design built into it.
Oh, absolutely.
You really think about how much text are we putting on there? Are we over teaching? It's all those decisions.
Right.
Not
And it's amazing how much smarter I'm working now because of technology, and you know, there are some challenges with HyperDocs and being and not having that like visible stack of papers in front of me to grade. You know, we're sort of trained as language teachers to do that, and so I've had to rethink about what does my workflow look like and how do I keep track of it when it's all just in Google Classroom or in our learning management system. How do I assess, and what do I assess? And that's something that I'm still a work in progress. You know, and I think that I love looking at that and how I can keep track and monitor what they're doing. We had I've also had the kids start playing around with the HyperDoc, which I think is really interesting.
Yes.
You know, the kids who are really techie who will want to go in and immediately change all the backgrounds and they'll do their own thing to it. But I had a boy a couple weeks ago who kids have been asking me the same question over and over, and I knew I'd kind of messed up on my layout and that they weren't seeing it the way I was seeing it. And I said, oh yeah, I'll have to change that for next time. Well, he went home and he redid the whole thing for me.
That's so great.
It looks so much better. I said, please give me that. And I immediately changed the link so that next time I use it, it's all going to be right there.
So,
but I love that he was thinking about that. You know, they're at that point now where it's February and we've been doing this long enough that the novelty has worn off, but yet they're looking at it as from a learner's point of view.
It's incredible. It's such a shared experience. I mean, in the classroom today, you're collaborating with your students on the lesson design. That's basically what happens when you hand the entire lesson to the students.
Yeah.
That immediate feedback from them.
Yeah.
We have a question. We have a middle school English teacher from Boston. Grant is watching and he has a question.
Hi, Grant.
He's new to HyperDocs and he's wondering where you find HyperDocs most beneficial, grammar or teaching literature?
Literature or nonfiction or writing or reading. And I actually haven't used HyperDocs really for grammar. I use No Red Ink, and I prefer that, and that's kind of like my my background music. But I love them for literature, and I love slides. I've been really loving creating them on slides for different novels. And I think the fun thing for me with literature is that I can look at other things that other people have made, even if it's not my grade level, even if it's not the literature that I'm going to be using, and then think about what kinds of applications are they using and how did this teacher want the kids to show their learning, and then adapt it for mine. I think that's, the ability to share and give and not have to pay for things like that has been very liberating.
It is. So do you study some of the novel HyperDocs that are out there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Heather Marshall, Kevin Ferramisco, those are my guru. they're
our names, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I look at theirs and figure out, well, Kevin teaches 8th grade, but Heather teaches 6th grade, but she comes up with the most beautiful, creative ideas, and sometimes I just use them, and sometimes I adapt them to fit what I'm doing.
Right.
Ms. Pop would also like to know about grading HyperDocs and how that works for you.
Yeah, I think grading HyperDocs is really dependent on what's in the HyperDoc, right? And so for me, a lot of practice is not graded per se. But I do have an end product at the end. So I usually have my kids turn in a HyperDoc on our school management system or Google Classroom, and I give them credit for turning it in. But I don't necessarily say I grade and give feedback on every single part of the HyperDoc. I think that facilitates practice and for them to be able to feel free to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final product would be what I would be basing my grades on, or checking the standards that they've been met.
That's such good advice. To just give them time to practice and take some risks. And then if needed, if the final product is not quite what you had hoped for that student, you have that documented digitally, the work that we've done leading up to it too.
Oh, absolutely.
Go back and reference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting. So you also, I just want to point out your awesome advice to new HyperDoc creators out there, which was, I believe, study other people's design, and even if it's different content, you'll get ideas, or you can put your own content into creating lessons similarly and using technology in the way that they do.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a digital native. I'm a digital immigrant. So everything I do with technology, you know, I'm learning hands-on. And I think being able to share and look at what other people are doing. I mean, the Facebook group for HyperDocs has just exploded, and there's so many people on there asking great questions and really helping each other out. That's a really go-to place for me. And talking to other people, what are they doing and how are they doing it? What does a HyperDoc look like in science versus what it might look like in English or look like in Avid? And for me, that definitely, and to not be afraid to just start, to just do it. And, you know, I've had kids, I don't know, Marlon, if you remember, some of the HyperDocs, well, they can take a very long time to plan and to create. And I love it when kids say, how long did this take you to make? Because that, to me, shows them that I care about what content I'm putting out and how I want them to learn. But also it shows them that I'm taking my job seriously. And I'm asking them to do a lot, but I'm willing to walk the talk too.
Absolutely. Modeling that. And you're modeling everything you're asking them to do by being a blogger and connecting outside the four walls of your classroom and using the technology. And like you said, you're a digital immigrant, and I know we are as well. Our kids are digital natives, but also showing them that we take, you know, some risks with them, and we're trying to model what we're asking them to do.
Actually, I'm getting like huge hands up for your digital immigrant comment.
Love that. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that's so good. So good.
Well, I like, you know, going back to that 2011 experience, I was selected for this program, and there were only 60 people in the US that got picked, and I felt like I was the old lady of the group, right? I mean, there are all these young people in their 30s who were super motivated and had been teaching 5 years. They were ready for a switch. And I felt really self-conscious about what I couldn't do and what I didn't know how to do. So I know what it feels like. And I'm trying to train teachers, like some of Marlon's, you know, teachers and other teachers here, should just take those chances and not be afraid of technology, because, you know, you're not going to break the internet, and kids are going to know more than you do anyway. So just take that step backwards and feel comfortable with that.
Right.
And have some fun.
It's really a mindset of being okay with not knowing it all, and
right.
letting the kids teach you as well, and have a parallel process.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it's motivating for students too, that they have an equal part in this learning piece. They bring a lot to the table.
And kids like to know that their teachers are staying up with things. I became a grandmommy this week, and my daughter adopted a double doodle dog, and I feel like the grandma, right? So I was telling my students that my daughter kept Snapchatting me, and I said it's really hard not to look at the Snapchats in class because she's got a double doodle. And 5 minutes later, during work time, they said, "Would it be okay if I requested you on Snapchat or whatever you call it when you do that?" I don't know. Marlon's always my tech social media. And they said, "Do you have a Bitmoji?" I'm like, "Of course I have a Bitmoji." And you know, just to have some fun with it. When you can do that with your students, they know that you're human, and it just builds that relationship.
It goes back to that relationship, which is right where we started our conversation.
Exactly.
In front of the door, and also like speaking their same language around these tools and the process. So I do want to highlight some of the other work that you've done as well, Jen. Can you talk about your work in Nicaragua? I mean, it's amazing.
Sure.
You've really gone beyond the four walls of your classroom with your work in Nicaragua as well. So talk to us.
So My own children went through a Spanish immersion program here in town. We have, as part of our public ed, Marlon is also an alumni of the Spanish immersion program. And as part of that, I had a deep desire for them to, they'd say, well, how do your kids like speaking Spanish? I said, they don't know any different. This is just what they've been doing. And then I really realized that I need to show them why being bilingual is an important thing in today's society. So we started working with a nonprofit called Seeds of Learning, and it's out of Santa Rosa, California. And it is a group that is committed to helping rebuild the education system in Nicaragua. We all know the history of the Contras and the Sandinista revolution, and Nicaragua is a country of people who are very excited and interested in learning. And so I took my kids to Nicaragua when they were little in 2010, and we helped to build a school. And as a result of that, I just fell in love with this whole idea of global citizenship, and that's what led to my work with the Department of Ed. But I've been going back ever since then and returning to the same group and working in different schools and building relationships. I've worked with teachers. We've done the sister school program. Marlon's actually going to go back this year with our Spanish teacher. And it is a really fabulous thing to be able to take the skills that we have as educators in the United States and be able to go to a different country who really values education, and give our children an experience like that, to be able to, and it fills me up with so much love. And back then, when I was trying to start the sister school program, these schools we were building didn't have electricity. So I was struggling to figure out how we could use technology to do that. But now that's becoming more available. So that'll be my next step, is to share HyperDocs with the Nicaraguan teachers.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's been really neat and a huge part of my life. I'm looking to start another group to go back this year, if anybody's interested. I'm considering going back in July. So I was just there last summer, and it's pretty fabulous. Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You really are going beyond the classroom in all the facets of your life, and really I'm just so inspired by hearing about all your projects. I also hear that you were on TV recently. Do you want to talk to us about that, a TV star?
Oh, well, yeah, that's been super fun. I've been on our local TV station a couple times this year, another attempt at pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And I have done a TV spot on back to school and giving advice to parents, and had all these crazy back to school products that I got to share with them, like little odor eater things you put in your lockers, and fancy, all the neat technology that comes out in binders and all of that stuff. So that was fun. But I think my most exciting one was when I got to cook, because I have a secret desire to be like on Food Network. I want to be the first teacher chef, right?
We have a HyperDoc, by the way, about that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Tasty video.
Okay. Well, they asked me to be on a cooking demo show on live TV. And, you think you're prepared for anything when you teach middle school live, but cooking live was a whole nother deal. My preparation skills did come in handy because I was really ready. I had cooked things ahead of time, because when I walked in there, I realized that the kitchen is actually fake. And I was making pasta, and I turned around and looked at the sink, and there was a big sign that said, "Do not use fake sink." And I went, oh, this is going to be really great.
Oh, that's so funny.
That was really exciting. I had to think on my feet a lot about how to cook, how to turn on all the equipment, but yeah, it was fun. So I look forward to doing that more often.
Oh my gosh, Jen, you are so great. That is so fun. So we hope that you'll get a cooking show too. We'll just come watch it, or we will do another interview, or we come together and we cook something. We'll do
yeah, that would be fun. That would be really fun.
Right here, barbecue. So, and I'll just eat everybody's great food. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I can make a mean eggplant pasta.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, for everybody who's watching, and I'm sure you're as inspired as we are, I just want to guide you towards Jen's blog. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll put it up with the video, but it's jenniferwolf.net. Her motto is loving fiercely, teaching audaciously, and thinking deeply. I just love those three themes. It seems like that's really the themes of your life.
Thank
That's
you.
how you came up with that, to put that in your blog?
Yeah, I tried to think about, well, I started blogging in 2011 when I had 2 kids at home and trying to figure out a creative outlet for everything that was going on. And, now my daughter's graduating from college and my son is about to graduate from high school. And so it's morphed into different things, but I love writing about life as a mom and a teacher and, a citizen of watching what's happening in our world today, and really how we can look at that through the lens of storytelling and the lens of kindness and the lens of education.
Well, I have to say, anyone watching, and we'll be pushing this out as well, that if you're not reading Mama Wolf's blog, you really need to.
Thank you.
I knew you well before we met because you wrote that blog post about writing your goodbye letter to your child as they go off to college. And I just was crying and crying and actually wrote the letter to my son. And then when I met you, I was so excited to meet you live.
That is one moment I will remember, Lisa.
Crying,
oh my God. I'm going to go back and
it's an amazing.
What's really funny, Jen, is I have an entry on the same topic. So that could be like a collection of stories from mother. And it's such an impactful time.
Yeah, you're quite the authority on writing these blog posts on moms and seriously letting your kids grow up.
And I love that HyperDocs and that brought us all together because this is really fun. Yeah.
And you're not too far from us in Davis, California.
Right. No.
We got to come visit your classroom one of these days.
That would be fun. That would definitely be fun. Yeah, and I put on there's a blog post up today with a bunch of links to my favorite HyperDocs. So if people want to click on them, some things for Avid, some things for English, and I'd love to stay in touch.
For sure. And we'll put those links on our HyperDocs on air on hyperdocs.co. And we'll tweet it all out this week. And on the Facebook group. I'm glad you brought that up. It is an incredible group of sharers. I can't even keep up with all the conversations.
I think when I first heard about HyperDocs, Lisa, you were saying you had just started Teachers Give Teachers, and you were saying, we've got this little thing. It doesn't have, I don't even think it had 1,000 people on it yet. It was just still tiny. And now
it's over 11,000 people now.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
Isn't that amazing? I think look at this.
You guys have started something that has just been so amazing for education, and I thank you.
Thanks for being a big part of that, though.
You're a big part of it, and it's all about the people and the stories. That's why we love this time we take each week to meet the people doing it and living the life and really working with the kids.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, it's been an honor, and thank you for joining us. And we will see you on the Twitters and on social media. If you are new to HyperDocs, you can pick up the HyperDoc Handbook on Amazon.com, or for sure check out Teachers Give Teachers, where a lot of teachers are sharing HyperDocs, and you can buy or make a copy of anything that you're interested in getting started. Questions? Come to any of us. We're a collaborative community who wants to help each other out.
Big shout out to our live audience today. You were awesome with your
and shout out to Marlon.
Yes.
Giving up homework time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week, and keep in touch with us. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.